Oh yeah, that's live. Hi everybody. How's everyone doing? It's a really nice evening to be indoors. It's warmer than everybody expected, right? Or is it just me? Like I wore this thinking it was going to be 50 degrees and it's 70, so that's okay, global warming. So welcome to the Asian American Writers Workshop. I'm Anne. I'm going to read the bio of me prepared by the staff here. I'm the executive director of the Asian Arts Initiative in Philadelphia. I just want to bring that up because I'm also a board member at the Asian American Writers Workshop, and both organizations are very important. How many of you here for the first time? Wow, really? Wait, Sophia, no. That's amazing. So, you know, organizations like ours make sure that stories are told. And for us, Asian American stories are especially important. And I know that for our Asian Arts Initiative in Philly and for AAWW in New York, that means telling a wider variety of stories so that we understand the heterogeneity of what it means to be Asian American. And it also means different kinds of stories. So it can be poetry, it could be memoir, and it can be comics. So just a few things about AAWW. We are a national literary nonprofit organization founded in 1991, dedicated to the idea that Asian American stories deserve to be told. You can find out more about us at aawww.org. And I always want to advocate for like we should just start calling ourselves So go there and read our online magazines at the Margins and Open City. Look out for upcoming events, including next Thursday. This is really exciting. Korean American writers writing about Korean history and the Korean adoptee experience through fiction and poetry. And so we'll be hosting Eugenia Kim, Alice Stevens, and Julane Lee. And they're serving Vanessa's dumplings, which is great. Readings with food and booze, which, is there booze here tonight? There's usually booze here, so that's always fun. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Grindr? No? And then sign up to the e-newsletter and or volunteer at events like this one. There's a sign-up sheet at the reception table, and you can talk to Kim or Rob or Sophia or Jyoti's back there. And I know there's a lot of other staff I'm not familiar with yet, but I'm sure they will make some kind of signal to let you know that they're available to be spoken to. Also, if you are a writer, Asian American Writers Workshop has money to give because writers are poor. Also because they're specifically giving out fellowships to certain groups who are writing. Some of these fellowships include Margins, Open City, and Muslim communities. So please look out for staff or go to the website to find out more. So tonight, in the spirit of cartoons and comics and graphic novels and illustration, it's not just that these are comics. It's actually, tonight's theme is, one of the themes is humor. These are both hilarious writers, and these are hilarious books that we're going to be talking about today. So one of my jobs is to make sure you guys are ready to laugh. I'm going to enforce this by walking around making sure you guys laugh. But I'm going to warm up with a couple jokes and just preparing you guys that these are jokes. So this is really perfect. Actually, it's like a different kind of open mic entirely. So, okay, I mentioned we're at the Asian American Writers Workshop. I see a lot of Asian American faces out there, brothers and sisters. Hello. It's a great time to be Asian American. It's a really great time to be feared. It's actually, I know that sounds counterintuitive, like, you know, we don't want to be feared. We don't want to be denigrated for these like negative stereotypes about the role we play in any form, you know, words like terrorism. But the fear is real in a much more mundane sense. I was at a Panera Bread the other day, and I was standing in line, and there was an older white gentleman about to order, And he and I made eye contact. We were sort of close to the front of the register at the same time, and I just knew what was happening. He was about to order, and he kind of looked at me for approval before saying, "I want the Chinese chicken salad. Is that okay? Is that okay?" And I was just like, "Fine, I don't know. That's fine." I proceeded to get this literally happened. He was like, Chinese chicken salad, I can say that, right? And I'm like, that's fine. That's you can have your Chinese chicken salad. I also like the food thing because, it's that, I don't, how many of you women have gone out on dates and men have insisted they like Asian food more than they actually do, right? And because I'm Japanese American, I always get, I love sushi. I could eat it every day. And I'm like, that's not possible. Look at you, you're poor. There's just no way you could eat sushi every day. That's patently impossible. Okay, good, you're laughing. All right, so let's get started with comedy night. Not really. Our first presenter, our first artist is Nicole Dong. Her Sharky Malarkey follows the adventures of Bruce, a washed-up shark actor, and a colorful assortment of dysfunctional people, animals, and inanimate objects. Bruce is equally outlandish and relatable. He's vain but insecure, hot-headed but cowardly, craves attention but fears intimacy. His over-the-top antics are all too human. Nicole, we got a chance to chat earlier. You guys, sorry, Megan, you have two names, so I'm sorry. I knew I was going to do that. I'm just glad I didn't call you Aminder. Okay, Megan has some exciting news for you all to pay attention to on election day, right? She's running for, I'm just kidding. So next Tuesday, just it happens to fall on election day, just pay attention to Variety magazine, and just big hint, it involves Netflix and some cool project. So stay tuned for that. And there's a lot of other information here, but I think it'd be more fun to address it in the Q&A afterwards. So I'm gonna let you take the stage without further ado.
Oh shit, hold on. Hi. So I'm just gonna quickly read through some comics. Just really quick about Bruce. The whole idea when I first started doing this was it was just like a dumb joke where it was the idea being, what if the animatronic from Jaws was actually an actor? And so here's the very first comic that I did of Bruce. Dun-it, dun-it, dun-it. Great. Can we try a few more shots from, no. Didn't my people tell you I only do photos from this angle? but, hang on. No. Dun-it, dun-it, slap. Here's another one. Sir, please try to be serious. Okay. Has anyone ever told you that you're overly sensitive to criticism? I am not. Oh shoot, sorry. Okay, then we'll get into some other comics, random ones. She's Tracy, the doll that sees the future. So Tracy, what's in my future? You will only date mediocre men. You will never have enough money to buy property. Oh, it's cool, Tracy. I don't really want to know my future. Car crash. You will die in a car crash. You will not live to see your 30s. The key to attractiveness is having big boobs, a tiny waist, and long legs. See, attractive. Still hot. I think it's sexy. Yep. Boinkable. I am literally gonna bang that toaster. Who's a handsome boy? I am. I am the handsomest boy. Okay. Real girls talk real body insecurities. Getting into some lady comics here. I think that my thighs are too big. My skin breaks out all the time. My mouth is also my anus. My arms are too long. Jesus Christ. My arms are full of venom. I desperately desire friendship, but my hugs cause death. Okay. 8 easy life tips for ladies who want that healthy glow. Sorry, I guess the jellyfish is also narrating this part. Take a yoga class. Go on a juice cleanse. Laugh with a salad. Start a cult. Laugh with a salad made by vegetables grown by your cult. Try a mud mask. Start a second cult. Laugh with a salad and juice while your cults battle to the death to win your favor. Okay. It's Brown Beard, Blue Eyes, the hot, sexy dating show wherein one drunk woman is drunkenly courted by a swarm of brown-bearded, blue-eyed men who are also so drunk. Meet our men. Chase, he enjoys reading a good soup can label. Dace is currently pursuing a master's in snowmen. Troston, his favorite hobby is going to the local JCPenney to neg the mannequins. Drent, he dreams of one day cleansing the world of birds. And Zester has only had sex with racists. And then I wanted to close this with reading a chapter, which I think hopefully some of you in the room will be able to relate to this, but it's a chapter from the book called A Toad Makes New Friends in the Forest. On a cool autumn morning, a lone tadpole hatched in a shallow creek. All of its siblings had been eaten by crayfish, its parents also eaten by a duck, but the plucky little tadpole survived. It grew and grew, its tail shriveled away, and its body sprouted tiny limbs. One day, the tadpole sat up above the waterline, peered down at its reflection, and saw that it had become a toad. Life in the creek was lonely, and the threat of ducks and crayfish loomed in the toad's incredibly frequent nightmares. But most of all, the toad craved friendship. Packing nothing because the goddamn crayfish had raided its food stores the morning prior, the toad decided to leave its watery home and venture off to the big forest. The forest was bustling with animals, large and small. Most of them had never encountered a toad before. Giddy with excitement, the toad happily set off to meet all of its new neighbors. There are so many stories about cats and so few tales of toads. I would love to share more toad stories with the world. My God, you're right. There should be more stories about your kind. I will tell these stories about your kind. Boom, green face. Okay. I keep hearing salamanders bring up amphibian issues. Personally, I think it's a bit much. Well, I mean, I'm also an amphibian. What? No, you're a toad. Toads are reptiles. Toads are definitely amphibians. I'm pretty sure I know more about what you are than you do. Hey, look, a frog. Hey, man, could you, say something in frog for us? Oh, sorry, I'm not actually a frog. I'm actually a toad. Oh, shit, my bad. I can never tell the difference. No worries. I mean, we're closely related and even we're part of the same taxonomic order. It's a pretty easy mistake to make, but we're a distinct species with our own unique qualities. Cool. So can you, say something in frog for us? You are cool for a toad. Yes, considering the fact that you were a toad, you are cool. Thank you. Wait. My last 2 girlfriends were salamanders. I'm really into amphibian culture. I admire you. You're just so real. I am? All I see these days are sleek, beautiful animals, but not you. You're just so real. What I'm trying to say is that I admire how you put yourself out there. In spite of your hideous appearance, you're just so real. And that is the difference between toads and frogs. Thank you for teaching me. I don't know why these animals sound like this. I'm sorry. Thank you for teaching me. You know so many things. Well, it just feels nice to help inform others about others who might not understand the difference between toads and frogs and amphibians. Hello there, my salamander friend. Would you like to join us in a discussion about amphibian issues? Like, I'm a newt. Oh, shit. Friend, I finally understand the hardships your kind goes through. And I hope that someday all mammals will one day know the struggles of the frogs. Toads? For now, I carry the burden of knowing about the burden that frogs carry. I am so brave. He is so brave. And that's it.
That's awesome. I'm definitely a toad. Okay, so without much pause, I'm going to go right into introducing our next reader artist. Woo! Okay, Aminder Dhaliwal comes from Los Angeles by way of Canada. Just got your green card this year, right? Yeah. For anybody else who's been through that process, you know it's very time-consuming and back-breaking labor. Okay, here's a bio. First serialized on Instagram to an audience of over 150,000. Wow. Woman World, which has come out there drawn in quarterly now. By the way, books are in the back. You guys should buy copies after the reading. Is a delightful imagining of a world where men have gone extinct. Aparna Nancherla writes, Woman World is an overdue, welcome, and slightly hilarious glimpse into the complex, heartfelt, and existential bonds between women of all stripes and makes. Each scene reminded me of the wild paradox of wanting to do good in the world, but also being undeniably human. Aminder's a native of Brampton, Ontario, and received a Bachelor's of Animation from Sheridan College, LA. Oh, and both of them are animators. No big deal. They're also directors, which is kind of hard to find, you guys were saying, right? Not a lot of women directors in animation, so, you know. And Woman World was also nominated for an Ignatz Award for Outstanding Online Comics. So without further ado, let's bring up Aminder.
Thank you. Oh, this is fun. This is cool. All right, I'm going to do a reading. It's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be as interesting as Megan's, personally. All right, Woman World. So, once upon a time, there were no men. That'll just bring us into the comic. The men are extinct. What will all the straight women do? How many of you skewed bi anyway? She's got her hand up, too. All right, Ulana thinks to herself, the last generation was artificially born and all female. They'll never know men. She looks out at the ruins. Grandma, I found an artifact. Is this what men were like? She holds up a dusty old DVD of Paul Blart. And Miko looks so hopeful, craving for any sort of connection to the past. Sure, sweetheart, Ulana says, while thinking, she needs this. Mayor Gaia, I discovered something disturbing on my medical supply run, says the doctor as she runs into the mayor's office. I found an old factory that was manufacturing male androids. I hypothesized mankind was attempting to live on mechanically. But before they could finish, they were wiped out. Mother of God, how close did they come to creating a fully functioning male android? Only as far as the mechanical male genitalia. A dildo. You found a dildo factory, says Ulana. Grandma, teach me a saying from the old world. Alana thinks for a moment. Here's one. That's what she said. What does it mean? She's a believer. Oh, sweetie, it's just a silly innuendo. Besides, it's from a different time. No one will get it now. Even if the setup was so easy that it just flopped out of my mouth. The joke with no punchline. Yeah. Oh my God, look at that cloud. It's a perfect Hopeless Malabaricus fish. She says to the one cloud. Grandma, when will I be a woman? Everyone calls me a girl. I don't think anything specific defines your womanhood. Not every woman gets a period. Not every woman gets breasts. Not every woman bears children. I suppose you just have to declare it. Go ahead. Tell the world you're not a girl anymore. My name is Amiko and I am a woman. You go, girl. And I'll end it on a somber note. Amiko walks up to a statue of a man, the thinker. She looks up. He looks back down at her. You're stuck in stone, Mr. Thinking Man. I wonder what you're stuck thinking. I hope it's happy thoughts. It starts raining. And so, a little bit of a segue to having an Instagram comic is you get to read comments. It's been a massive part of my education of social media, is reading things like this. I just read through some of these Woman World posts, and not to be a meninist or anything, but a lot of these are just pure sexist against men and saying all of us are terrible woman haters. I'm a nice guy. I respect women. Women. Stuck the landing. So close, so close. I get a lot of this. Why do you hate men? I get a lot. You're being very sexist. That's sexist. Her comic implies that she believes that a world would be better without men. There's a lot of this. This one's a personal favorite. Everything wrong with radical feminism in a nutshell. I thought it'd be a good blurb on the back of my book as well. Thought about reaching out, getting a quote. These are dumb as hell. Why are these comics in my feed? This one I like because this person came to comment, and I don't know if they're asking me for an answer. I was like, I think you follow me. That's why they're in your feed. There's an easy way to stop that. Yeah, I'm my feed. Oh, I always try and correct him as well. I'm my feed. I don't think I could live in woman world because all my friends are guys and I'm also not gay shit. Again, the endings, real interesting. This, I'm not gonna read. This is the longest back and forth of the nicest argument I have ever seen. It's two people just respecting each other really, really hard. Whilst I agree with you, the main reason I'm worked up, like all the way they talk to each other is really interesting. The person then responds with, it's fine to clarify. My point is that this law will lead to thug. They just keep going back and forth, and every one of them starts with, it's fine to clarify, or I understand that, whilst I agree with you. At some point, they also mentioned that they're both Canadian, which I think was like loud and clear already. And finally, my favorite kind of comment. This has been so good. Thank you. These are the ones I wait for. These are the ones you don't get the least because the haters tend to comment more, but this is why I do it. Thank you.
Give it one more time for Aminder and Megan. All right, so I think we'll move into the Q&A segment of our evening if we can have the artists join me at the TV talk show couch. Cool. Whew. Well, thank you for that. That was really funny. And Y'all set?
We're both figuring out our mics.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm really scared of
We're
technology.
bad at yeah.
I'm scared of technology.
We did not make that subtle at all.
So I want to start with the fact that you both are humorists. These are both, not just in terms of the content being funny, but the format, right? There's like a setup and a punchline. So tell me about your work in humor. So is this consistent with what you write? Is this out of character?
This is pure me. It was kind of the reason I made the comic, was that I felt working in animation, it's a mostly teamwork. Everything you see requires a giant group of people. So I just wanted to make something that was purely me, and I feel like as I kept going, I slowly got better at understanding my own characters and also how to set up my punchlines. And sometimes I skew more soft, but it's straight up just pure me, and it's the kind of stuff I like to read as well, because I'm just a huge fan of myself. So I did the thing where I forgot what you asked, but I just started talking, and I was like, oh, my voice, huh? Though if I can speak for Megan for a moment, and for the rest of the night, I'll just
Okay, yes, please do this. Make my job easier.
Do voices like she did, though. Sure, Megan.
Yeah.
Sorry, Megan.
That's exactly what I sound like.
I know. When she's not putting on this voice. I knew her work first, and then got to meet her, and we started working together. And she is in her everyday, the sweetest, not quiet in a bad way, but you're a thinker, and very thoughtful and intentional. And that was just not the person I had expected after seeing all those comics. I thought it was a massive weirdo and some of those expressions, yeah. And then I meet her and she's so sweet and lovely.
Oh, I get that a lot, where they're your personality contrasts what they were expecting from the comics. I'm also going to do something really weird right now. I'm not running away. I'm just I'm fleeing the stage. To answer your question, you were asking about, your original question was about if this is reflective of sort of our tone. So for me, similar to Aminder, we work in animation, and it's a very collaborative process, and also the content that we've mostly worked on is for kids. So I think I wanted to start doing some work for myself, and I wanted to kind of do something that felt fresh or something different. When you draw for a living, it can become hard to go home at night and continue to draw. So I started working in sketchbooks a few years ago, and all the comics that you see there are they're actually just done here in in sketchbooks. So I wanted to do some stuff that wasn't for kids explicitly, and I also just wanted to do stuff that was traditional, because we're working on Cintiqs during the day, we're working digital, and for me, it was more creatively freeing to kind of work, just go analog and just work in a book. And it's kind of been nice to kind of be able to track, to also have a physical reminder of where I was a couple years ago, and just have a physical diary that I can flip through and know where I was at from year to year.
That's interesting. You should mention that your day jobs involve writing for children, because there's something, I know in YA lit discourse, there's a lot of conversation about what makes it appropriate or what makes it hit a certain reading level, whereas this is very I see that it's marketed toward adults, or at least I was definitely marketed this as if it were for me, and I'm 39 years old, but it's also very childlike, right? There's a very childlike tone you embody, and now to see that you started in this analog format, which, not that kids don't also draw and paint, but it's a very adult craft, right? The draftsmanship it requires, and so I wonder, do you feel and you also mentioned balancing the work you do in an office on a Cintiq versus coming home and doing it for pleasure, but what do you think about just sort of franchising the difference between a kid audience and an adult audience?
Yeah.
Sometimes, some of the rules we apply to kid audiences are more brand based from the companies we work for.
There's a lot of bureaucurity in
There's a
general.
lot.
S&P, yeah,
Right.
and then executives, and
Yeah.
each company has its own set of rules.
Right.
So
There's if you do this, we can't air you in certain countries anymore.
Oh,
so you
wow.
can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Wait, can you give us an example of something? A little. Yeah.
Anytime
Oh.
there is like any gay relationships on
Oh.
shows, which I think a lot of us want to put those in, like we
Like
want
we
to
mean like something as small as like a hand
handhold, yeah, like two male
Yeah.
characters holding hands.
Oh.
It
That
has
is a
to
battle.
Yeah, it has to run through a bunch of channels and because they're worried about it airing in countries like Russia or in certain countries that are
Like
more
the U.S. or.
yeah, I know, like
Wow.
yeah, I mean
Yeah, they
Pretty
will
much.
they is ultimately a
Wow.
business we work for, so they will lose
Yeah.
that because those countries won't air it. They will lose that that ad revenue. So it's not so much that I feel every day that it's someone sitting in a room making sure that kids get like the most authentic and like real version of something. It's that they're protecting a business. So you're
Yeah.
fighting against that so often that it's just really nice to like go home and make your own version of stuff. Because I think I would personally say that like Megan stuff should, like, kids can read that.
Yeah.
Like it should be available to them. The same way, like, yeah, someone slightly older would. I've had people reach out to me that they've, because of the cover, parents have bought it for their children and read,
yeah, same
actually read
here.
Woman World to their children, like as a bedtime story. So like, that's like super exciting to me, and like an easy one for me, which you could not ever do in children's cartoons, is there's nudity. So like, that's a really simple one to pick up on.
Yeah.
I was just tired of drawing clothes.
Yeah.
But I think we were both really fortunate that we were able to put comics on social media. I think that's really changed things for a lot of creators because that meant that we could, because we had an interesting path to publishing where we were on social media first, and that's where we put our comics. And I think it's opened a lot of paths for not only comics but for animation as well. A lot of people who work in the industry were discovered online through social media.
Yeah.
So I think we're really lucky that we live in a time when we can just put our stuff out there and then kind of build our own audiences first.
Yeah.
I think.
I've heard from a lot of artists that they feel certain anxiety about social media, right?
Yes.
Like it's that you sort of touched on it with the comments you get at the end, but you know, how do you handle that? Because it is, I don't know if anybody else has this relationship with their accounts, but it's like love hate.
I definitely felt that there were times when I started, I was making the comics for myself, and then at some point it started turning into I was making comics for the audience, and I personally think those are the worst comics. And I genuinely feel like the audience agrees because I was now writing them for someone else, and that's not what brought them there. So I feel like that's the kind of line I've had to every now and again I've had to remind myself why I'm doing this. I generally, when I post something, I do not read the comments until usually 3 weeks later.
Oh.
Mostly because I'm busy, and
Yeah.
I will check the first 10 comments because I always assume it's gonna be a spell check person. Like someone's gonna be like, "There's a spelling mistake," because I really hate that, and that's the only thing that actually caused me anxiety. And I'll stay up the night before posting a comic. I'm like, I should check the spelling once more. I should check the grammar.
I sort of don't read comments as much anymore either because for that reason it can keep you up at night. So I try to divorce myself emotionally from the social media comments. And the way I like to view it is it's the best part about it for me is it can be a space where there's a kind of a call and response thing, and I have the most fun with it when I feel like it's playing with the audience. I don't know, one of my favorite things, or for my personal taste in humor and just what I like to do, it's committing really hard to really dumb ideas. And fortunately there's an audience out there for everything. So on Twitter, I found there was a picture that was getting retweeted of a cat that's face was blurring in a weird way. And then I started drawing it, and then people were responding to it and giving me other suggestions. So I think I was having fun just sort of going back and forth with the audience. And then
That's a
there
good
was
kind of interaction.
yeah, where if you don't, I'm just not taking it too seriously, or there was that bot-written Harry Potter chapter, and so I just started drawing it, and then some people were like, "Oh yeah, do you remember this line?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I almost forgot about that line." So, and then it just became a thread of just So when it feels like you're just playing with your friends, I think
Yeah.
like goofing off and doodling with your friends, that's the best part about it for me. And I think that's how I keep myself enjoying social media, just trying to ignore like people being creepy or the bad stuff.
Right.
Because
'Cause
one of my I'm sorry, I interrupted you. But one of my favorite things on Instagram is when people comment with just like they tag their friends and then they say something which I don't understand.
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
that's like some inside joke, and they're like sharing something. I'm not even in this anymore. Like
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I've just given
You're not
this
a
thing
part
to
of it.
them. It's really lovely.
But for like on the bad side of it, like as a woman on social media,
Sure,
that
yeah.
can be like it can get a little
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
And like you've worked at Cartoon Network, which is a studio that has a really particular following, and people sometimes they
Yeah.
cross boundaries. And I think the weirdest thing is when there's the over familiarity where they feel like they're a part of your life, and sometimes people can a lot of times unintentionally invade your privacy or do things that are often well intentioned but make you question your safety or make you feel a little violated. So that's the other reason why I don't generally read the comments, because I don't want to or read my DMs, because
That's interesting. That's a different form of protecting the brand, I guess, right?
Yes, yeah.
Protecting your own integrity or your safety.
yeah.
That's wild. Another, I'm just remembering some of the jokes both of you have made in your books, kind of addressing these things through metaphor. I'm just remembering one of your comics is creepy dolls, but the way that they're creepy is really modern.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember. I can't just if you can.
So Grandma's Creepy Dolls, a room of creepy dolls. Like one of them, it involves social media. It's like going on your Facebook and liking all the old pictures, but particularly like the bikini photos. Yeah.
But it's also, you depicted the creepy doll really accurately. It's actually like a creepy doll.
It's always like a room, right?
Yeah,
Full of them.
yeah.
Don't you hate that when you do that when you're doing some light creeping?
Light
saying like everyone does it. I'm just like, I'm light creeping this morning and like, oops, liked it. Yeah.
I know. I for me, it's the fact that it's always at an inappropriate hour of the day.
Yeah.
And like, it's almost like I can see an infinite reflection of the blue light from my phone against my glasses, hit my phone, hit my glasses, hit my phone, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, I should put this
I
down.
need to stop.
Yeah. But there's also a self-awareness in your characters. I can almost hear there's like therapy speak in Woman World when the friends are consoling each other or sort of going through jealousies and breakups and whatnot. And then you certainly just call out anxiety issues full frontal from the beginning. Can you guys talk a little bit about those sort of, for lack of a better word, psychological narratives?
Yeah. For me, a lot of that came from TV shows, or I guess mostly TV shows that have a large female cast. They often emphasize the drama, and women are always doing things to each other that women never do. And so I just wanted to kind of show what it's like hanging out with women, and it's usually like a therapy session. We're all just talking about our feelings and like validating each other's feelings. So I just wanted to express like, this is what it's actually like.
Even brutal honesty sometimes, right? Where you're like, wow, you're a little self-obsessed.
Right.
Yeah.
Calling each other out. Yeah.
There's like, I think there's more interesting like drama there, rather than the fake like wine throwing. I mean, I'd love to like throw some wine in someone's face. So
There's wine in the back, by the way.
I just hate wasting it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of it.
All right, Megan, if you're ready, Lady Shanae.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think this is waterproof. So.
Right. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
My brain instantly goes to clean up.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
what do you do? Like,
That segues into anxiety, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about anxiety a lot, like, I think I was talking about with you earlier today about how like I feel like my anxiety has actually sometimes helped me in terms of productivity, because I've got like a lot of I don't know. I think for us as women too, we feel like we have to catch up to the men, like especially in our industry that is getting more and more women every day. But has historically been very male. I think when we both started, we were in pretty dude-heavy spaces, and like I think anxiety has been like I've had like a long-standing relationship with anxiety. It's just been a part of my life, and it's driven me creatively, and so it felt kind of right to do comics about it.
Yeah.
And just like I feel like so many of us have it, and for me, like comics have been a way of like it's been therapeutic for me to just sort of talk about it because I have a relationship with it, and it kind of drives my creativity sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you feel like sometimes it gets like boiled down to the whole hashtag relatable, but like the realistic side of that, like if people are just looking for that relatability, and it's so nice to see that they can connect to this person they don't know who also feels the same way. There's something really wonderful about that connection.
I think too, humor is a great response to a lot of the anxieties I think we all feel just sort of globally, right? It's really difficult to pay attention to anything, much less the news right now. But, you know, to have in your news feed bullshit, and then like humor, right? Is I don't know about you guys, but I definitely control my feeds so that it's balanced in that way.
Yeah. It's definitely important for your own self-care to not have it be a constant stream of-
Self-care.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, so I wanted to ask about that as well. So it's, you know, it's nice to have this outlet, right? But it's also stressful because it's something you do for a living, or it's related to something you do for a living. What other kinds of things are we doing for self-care, ladies?
I started taking singing lessons recently. Like I was in show choir when I was in high school, and musical theater. That was all like a big part of my life. I think, as you may have guessed, like I wanted to be a marine biologist at some point. Like the three things I wanted was like marine biology, musical theater, and animation. Like those were the kind of three paths that I was considering, and I ended up going with, animation, cartooning. But I sort of started reconnecting with that recently, where it was like it's been a long time since I've done that, and I'm really, maybe because of my anxiety, I'm really bad at meditating, and I know it's good for anxiety, but
You had a great chapter about meditation in your book, actually.
you did, yeah,
Connecting to men's nipples.
yeah.
I grew up with maybe a little more meditation in my household. My mom still wakes up and does yoga first thing in the morning.
Whoa.
So like I grew up with a little more of that.
She's going to outlive us all.
She will. Oh no. I have two things I kind of do. So I think it sounds stupid to say, but like I read a lot because everyone reads. But it's the only, and I read fiction. It's the only thing that can actually take my mind off of everything because you are completely absorbed in another world. Because we work in television, I can't watch television to get away because I'll start breaking down the act structure and stuff, and I'll start feeling like work. I can watch I don't know, stuff that's like not scripted, I guess, sometimes. Like Great British Bake Off.
Terrace House, Great British Bake Off.
GBBO.
Otherwise,
we still analyze it, though. We still analyze the storytelling.
We talk about the editing of Terrace House. Yeah.
We can't get away. It sucks when you're in that industry. You can't stop analyzing it.
Yeah, it's seeping in.
I can't get into Terrace House, but I think it's because I've spent so much time in Japan. It's just too much. I mean, I'm like, who are these people? Like, who lives like this? I mean, I think The Real Housewives is more believable in a weird way.
Oh, really?
That's my jam. Is if I'm gonna watch a room full of people trapped in a TV show, they have to have a lot of plastic surgery.
We're into like the show where people get upset about someone eating a steak. Like,
Yeah. That's
like
a good
the
point.
non-drama.
That's the
Yeah,
best
the
part of
non-drama.
Great British Bake Off too. The stakes
Yeah.
are super low.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need low stakes sometimes.
Yeah,
Super
sometimes
low.
now it causes me a little bit of anxiety when the music speeds up at the end of the show, and I'm like, no, I'm not ready for this part.
Right.
Actually, the most dramatic thing that happened on that show was Mary Berry leaving.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that was
I was
drama.
devastated. Yeah.
Does anybody else follow these shows? Okay, just we just
completely
like
segued. We're just
alienated half the
baking
audience
for like the rest of the night.
I'm glad you brought up that you're reading as a diversion. After all, we are in the writers' workshop.
In the right place.
Books that you want to recommend?
Actually just reading right now The Power by Naomi Alderman. It's just cool to, and I'm only like, no one spoil it for me. And now I'm like, why did I say what I'm reading? Someone's gonna tell me how it ends. But that's like, very just like a great feminist book, I think. So it's been very enjoyable. But the other thing I do is I work with a rescue, and I help like with dogs, and that's really like lovely because
That's awesome.
They're just the best animals. Like,
Yeah.
we can all agree they're just the best. So
Animals
I
are
foster
dope.
dogs.
Well, I know you are obsessed with, or you are interested in animals. That seems apparent.
You can say the O word. I can say it.
You can say it. Yeah,
Obsessed,
I do
yeah.
really
Is that
love
right?
animals. Yeah.
And so IRL, you're rescuing dogs, or you're working with rescue dogs, and in non-IRL, at least, you're rescuing animals or interpreting them.
Man, actually, like just the last few weeks, like, oh my gosh, like on my birthday, actually, this is a dark story. Sorry, in advance. On my birthday, we found a baby squirrel that was injured, and like me and my friend were like, we gotta help it. So we drove like 45 minutes to like a place where, like, an animal hospital that also helps rehabilitate like wildlife. And we got there, we were like, okay, we're doing this nice thing. I made the mistake, I named it. I was like, I'm gonna pick a nice gender neutral name, Jonathan Tendergreens. I don't know, like that happened. Like immediately, like have this shoebox with a squirrel. I'm like, his name is Jonathan Tendergreens. We took it to the animal hospital. They were like, okay, we're gonna take care of it, and we'll text you updates. Do you want to do that? And I said, yes, sign me up. I left my phone number. We were in the parking lot leaving, and they texted me to say, we euthanized it.
No!
And it was like, happy birthday to you. So it was like a really weird.
I had because I had breakfast with you that morning, and then you talked. I was like, oh, what else are you gonna do today? Like you're gonna have like a nice relaxing day. And then the next time I texted you was like at like 8 p.m. or something, asking about the rest of your day, and then just hearing about like squirrel death.
Jonathan Tendergreens has died, and you're like, what?
Oh my God.
And then the weekend after that, the same friend I was with, she found a dove that was like walking funny. And so we like went on another journey. We're like, what do we do with this dove? Happier ending, like it just had been separated from its parents and couldn't quite fly yet. So it wasn't broken or anything. And then like
So
the human,
Dumbo.
it was just dumb. It was a sad, it was just like a poor little guy who was just like lost. So the Humane Society was like, oh, we can feed him until he can fly, and then it was all good. So yeah. So weird.
You might want to get like, I'm waiting for the text update. I was like, they euthanized it. They found it and they euthanized it. Don't worry.
I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to picture what it looks like to youth. I just picture like the tiniest little mask over the like. Just like. I don't know.
Oh God, the tiny little squirrel.
Squirrel parents coming by saying their last words. The
It
squirrel
inflates
funeral.
its cheeks one last time.
Oh my God.
A little squirrel comes to write down the will.
Yeah.
Last rites.
Last rites. Yeah, there's a little squirrel priest. Yeah.
Oh, it's like the Sylvania family, but just like
But squirrels.
Yeah. Oh my God, animals, guys! Am I right?
Animals are great.
Animals
They're
are
so
great.
pure. So.
I thought of you because I was reading the books, and then on my Twitter feed, the Mandarin duck that landed in Central Park. Have any of you seen this?
I don't know what happened
Well,
with this.
whenever you get a chance, just go into your phone and enter Duck Central Park or Mandarin Duck
Okay.
Central Park. It won't disappoint.
Okay,
Both of you, I
okay.
think, will find it enjoyable. Last question before opening it up to the floor, since we've been talking about animals, what are your fursonas?
Oh, personas. Oh gosh.
We're going to need like 8 minutes of silence while we think about it very seriously.
That's fine. I can,
gosh.
Let's see. What can I talk about?
I mean,
for 8
I
minutes?
dressed as a shark yesterday, like on the plane over the flight over here. I was like, yeah.
I got to the airport a little late, and I was like texting Megan to ask like where she was, and as I was doing it, I saw a shark in front of me in line. I was like, oh, never mind, I know where you are.
Yeah, so like I got out of my lift. I was like, I was like, should I dress? It's Halloween. It's kind of a bummer I don't get to dress up for work, so I'm just gonna wear my costume on the plane. And I got out of my lift and I just like noticed immediately that nobody else in the airport was dressed up except for the employees. And the first thing I hear as I'm like grabbing my bags is, oh look, it's a whale. Like it just. And then I like walked over. Yeah, so I was the only person at both the airport we left from and the airport we landed in who was dressed up. I was the only adult.
We got some good pictures.
Yeah,
you would like some normies.
My favorite part about that story is that you're surprised.
I was like, surely other people will have fun with Halloween and dress up. I'm like,
the airport, the least stressful place on earth
Yeah.
to show up as a predator.
yeah. And I was like in line just like, I'm over 30 right now, like dressed as a shark at the airport.
Did you trick or treat?
Well, no, but I did get some free shit. Yeah, like yesterday.
Okay,
Like
okay.
my seat was upgraded for free.
What?
Yeah.
Pretty nice.
And then there was like a lady from we flew JetBlue, and then there was a lady from Southwest who was like super excited to see. She like came running over and she was like, "Are you flying with us on Southwest?" And I said no, and she was like, "Oh no, I can't give you this free thing." And then she found me 10 minutes later and was like, "I'm gonna give it to you anyway." And it was like a Shark Week like a bottle opener that was
Oh my God.
shaped like a shark. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, I actually recommend it. Dress up to the airport, you'll get like free things.
That's amazing. Or free shark paraphernalia.
Free shark
at
stuff
least.
specifically.
Yeah.
I just really imagine like looking, because I was sitting ahead of Megan on the plane, just like looking back, and it's like a sea of people in suits, and then just like the head of one shark in a window seat.
Yeah, we have some real good photos on
We got
Twitter.
some great pictures.
I would give anything to fly next to the plane to shoot the shark through the window from outside. That would be
You
the
did
best.
get like a wide shot of me from very far away, like ducking behind some chairs.
Just
and
the
you
head
see
of the
top
shark.
it.
Like,
Was
was
it the
super-
Bruce angle? That
Oh, I should have done that. It was just like the top of the head, so it was just like some eyes.
Oh my God.
So I guess that's my persona.
Yeah, what's yours, Aminder?
I think because I work with them so often, a three-legged dog.
Oh.
Not quite right.
Yeah.
Hilarious to watch, I guess. And then a lot of aw.
Yeah.
I feel like that's true to me.
A very capable three-legged dog. An amazing animator. Questions from the audience? Let's start closest and then go back.
I'm sorry. Just because you turned around and said you're going to wear the shark suit and you don't have the Bruce angle, will you wear it on the way back?
Oh man, I've thought about it, but I feel like instead of getting free stuff because it's not Halloween, I might get like arrested.
I lost her at security, and then I thought to myself, well, she is the world's predator. Like, she's a predator. Like, of course she's being stopped.
Yeah. There was a question back there.
Hi. What was the dove's name?
Oh right, because we named the squirrel Jonathan Tendergrains.
Did you make the mistake twice?
We
did
did
you name it?
What did we name the dove?
I mean, Jonathan Tendergrains is such a good name.
That was really good.
Yeah, I'll have to shoot. I know we named him something.
I hope the dove knows its name, wherever it is now.
Yeah.
Flying with its family.
There's something kind of appropriate about the animal that survived is nameless.
Yeah, I know.
It's like really sad.
If I remember it, I'll say it. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one. Forgot. I feel like it did have a name.
Shoot, yeah.
So this is what it sounds like when doves cry. I have another question I forgot I wanted to ask earlier, which is why Paul Blart or why Kevin James? Because he
You mean
figures
why
a
not?
lot in women. Yeah, why? Yeah, exactly.
So I was trying to think of a new representation for mankind that I thought was more accurate. I was trying to think of like if society went to shit, big crazy thought here,
Right.
and like aliens come to Earth, thousands of years from now, what would be the funniest version of like humanity to find or mankind to find? And it always comes back to Paul Blart. Not only is it a funny name, I feel like they already did that work for me, but just like his face, I think it's just the mustache, everything, segues. I don't know,
Segues,
it all
yeah.
works.
I remember when the movie 300 came out, a lot of magazines were advertising the 300 workout to look like a Spartan.
Oh, right, yeah.
And in my head, I remember thinking, like, fast forward to when people who don't understand what that movie was only know that Frank Miller wrote it and look at him and they're like, why would I want to look like Frank Miller? He's like,
Interesting what they found sexy.
I was like, that should be a diet book, like the Frank Miller diet.
Well, funny, it did. So I was in Germany earlier this month as part of the book tour, and it came up that Paul Blart is something that is doesn't easily translate. So there's like, we asked the audience, well, how many people got the reference? And it seemed to be more divided by like young and old, and the amount of people who use the internet versus who don't really. So then I was like, I guess if, the book continues to get translated, I need like different versions of like who the Paul Blart of like that area of the world is.
Yeah.
I need to update it every time.
Oh, I remembered the dove's name. It was Jimmy Pea Sprout.
Jimmy, what?
Jimmy Pea Sprout.
Oh,
Pea Sprout. Yeah, we had, I think, in an episode of
I like the piece in there.
Peace, yeah. In an episode of the show that we worked on, which is coming out in January on Netflix, I think, called Pinky Malinky, there was a joke about like seeing eye pigeons, and the pigeon's name was Pea Sprout. So Jimmy Pea Sprout was just also Jonathan Tendergreen's Jimmy Pea Sprout. I just felt like they were all from the same universe. So
That's good.
I think we need to make like a tiny gravestone for Jonathan Tendergreens because that name needs to be seen.
Yeah, yeah. I just remember one more thing. You mentioned Germany, and when I was in France when another Rambo movie came out, and their name for it was the big ad for it was John Rambo.
John Rambo.
And I didn't realize Rambo had a first name and that it was John. I was like, this is what?
Whoa.
John Rambo.
Yeah, localization is really important, y'all.
Really
Wow.
John
Big
Rambo.
letdown.
I know.
Like that.
It should be like Bruce or something,
yeah.
not John.
John Rambo. That's
Yeah,
it's a confusing name.
Yeah.
I know.
It's a fun passport.
Yeah. Oh.
No, please.
Oh, you have a mic, so you go ahead.
Oh.
Are you Canadian? That was. That's true.
I was wondering about, you kind of touched it a little bit earlier about diversity in your workforce. Since it's in animation, it seems more behind the scenes, so we don't actually get to see the people that do the creating and the creative process. So what has that been like, and has there been any change recently?
Yeah. The interesting thing about animation is that there's a lot of representation on screen. There's a lot of diverse characters and groups of kids and stuff. But then there was for a while where you look behind the scenes and there wasn't much representation going on, and no one really seemed to. It felt like to me no one seemed to care, because the people who would care are like 6 to 11 years old, and they're not like writing in letters or anything. I am starting to see changes though.
Yeah, I think the past year, I think CalArts, which is a big, like a school where a lot of people come into our industry from, I think it was the student population was like 60 or 70% female.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see whether we can bridge the gap between people going to school and actually coming in. Like, hopefully that will be reflected in the workforce. And but I can say that more and more, like the last couple crews that I was on were definitely more diverse. When I first started working, I was at a studio that was at the time like maybe 40 people strong, and there were fewer than 10 women. And the crew that we were together on a couple years ago was, it was like almost a 50-50 split where it was slightly more female. So it was like 52% female. And that was at all levels of leadership, production, and, artists. And so we're starting to see more of that. So I hope.
There's like certain jobs where it doesn't happen. there's certain like other divides still where experience levels haven't caught up, and maybe in like just a few more years it'll continue to get better. But it is interesting that it's such a great time to be like a person of color and like a woman, because I feel like I've described it to Megan as like a lot of job offers lately of people being trying to make sure that they if they're crewing up, that they have a diverse crew, and it's almost like I want to like go make sure that like all the schools are, you know, that we have enough diversity there, because I'm like, there's so many jobs waiting for you guys. There's not enough of us in the industry right now, so everyone's trying to get the same people.
Right.
She stole my question. No, I'm just kidding. You guys built your success, or part of your success, obviously, because you're incredibly talented, but through social media. Was there a moment, a comic, Justin Bieber endorsement or whatever, like, was there something that like propelled you from just being someone that was doing it to themselves and then like, holy shit, this is real, like, you know?
You know, the cool thing about social media has been that there is the entire analytics side, so I could probably go back and literally like see exactly how it happened, but for me it was a really slow build. There was no point at which it suddenly broke through, or there was no post on some other website which suddenly brought a whole bunch of traffic. It was just slow and steady, and I could see the amount of comments and people tagging their friends that I would like see then the growth happen. There was no specific moment for me.
For me, it was, there were a couple comics that got shared around a lot on Tumblr, Instagram, and then there was one series of comics that I did that was about men being deceived by makeup. Where I like just did a series about like the whole bullshit of like certain guys saying like, oh, I want a woman who doesn't wear makeup because wearing makeup is deceptive. And so I did a comic series about like, you know, lipstick or you know like
I love the lashes one.
Right,
lashes,
like where like dudes are being like actually being lied to or being maimed or killed or whatever by makeup. And that kind of got shared around a lot, I think, because enough people were like, yeah, that's bullshit, and kind of got some like random outlets shared it, and you know, started getting interviews from that. And then, you know, like other than that, it was kind of like yours, where it was just like a sort of a slow, steady build. And I think the aha moment for me was just knowing that like I didn't have to, like I think for us, like especially coming out as like initially as students and then being young professionals, you see sort of trends, like, you know, oh, everyone's drawing, for animation artists, like everyone's drawing pretty girls or everyone's drawing like a certain kind of thing. And I think just sort of realizing that I can make comics and just do like the kind of humor that I want. Like, I don't know, like I can draw butts or I don't know, like I can do whatever. And there's an audience out there for me.
Yeah.
So just like,
they will find you.
They will find you. I think just realizing that they will find you rather than me having to tailor my stuff to what seems popular at the time was probably the biggest.
I remember
breakthrough for me.
trying to do the whole hashtag thing on my first comic where I actually hashtagged it. And I've since realized that like tagging anything is the way to find the opposite group of people, because they're actually searching those tags to go complain on things. So like I tagged International Women's Day because that's the day I launched Woman World, and I got like people just must have been searching it to like see what they could complain about. And so I just got a lot of hate, and I was like, I don't think this hashtagging thing works. So I just stopped it, and I started tagging it with just Woman World, so that if someone found it randomly, they could find the rest of the comics. Make it as easy and digestible as possible, because people will not put in the extra effort to like find more, or like they just really won't. So just make it accessible. And then for me, it's just Instagram's been it's just the thing I use the most. I do not tweet enough. I never understood Tumblr. I just never got it. So I hear it's coming back. I don't know.
Is it?
I feel like it is. Blogger, maybe that's making it come back.
Blogger, oh my God.
Yeah, Blogger and LiveJournal.
LiveJournal, yeah.
I think we just dated ourselves.
I know.
I want to get back on live.
GeoCities.
Angel Fire.
Yeah,
GeoCities.
okay. Yeah.
So I guess my question kind of goes to what you were talking about, how like these both started as like personal projects and kind of like stuff you just wanted to do because like this is your sense of humor, like this is just like stuff you could like talk about freely and like creatively make. But I guess like my question is like, because like you obviously like do a lot of creative like work like at your like animation jobs, and then like now this like both your like books and like comics are like being read by like many people, like really wide audiences. Do you ever feel like, I guess, the line between like the work you create like for your personal enjoyment and like for your like professional or like personal like professional like work life like gets blurred, and do you ever get like stuck or like creatively like kind of like how can like ways of like how can you like enjoy this when like there's expectations for like both your personal work and then like for your like professional work, and like kind of how do you work through that like creative block?
I touched on it a little bit earlier, whereas for me, it had to do with sort of switching up mediums, where I was having difficulty doing comics that were more like storyboards on the Cintiq. I was having a lot of difficulty working digitally on my own personal stuff. So when I switched to a sketchbook, it sort of freed me up creatively. Like I feel like it created enough separation, or it was something different enough from what I did in my day job. And then from a practical perspective, I also just started, I like use Evernote, that app, or some people just use the notes thing, where I would just create a list of like ideas to think about, or like the seeds of ideas, or I would just develop, like a list of things to draw later, so that I could, like if I had a spare 5 minutes somewhere, I could just pull out my sketchbook, because I work really small, and I was just able to start roughing out ideas or whatnot. And also because I'm working in like short format, just like usually 1-page comics, it just was a practical thing for me. But I will say it's become increasingly harder probably for both of us, because with our careers, like we're kind of taking on more responsibility. In the past couple of years, we've both been directing, and we've
finding
both
that time
working in
gets harder
development
and
and all
harder.
that. Yeah, so it becomes harder, especially
Yeah.
if you're starting to work on your own projects in your day job. Then it becomes harder to creatively find that outlet when you're working on your own material.
One of the things that does drive me is that working in entertainment, there's so many secret projects going on that the world will never know about. That is the case of things like, whether it be development, or the fact that we worked on a show called Pinky Malinky, which we worked on like 3 years ago, which is still not out yet.
Yeah. We did so many episodes.
We did so many episodes. There's so much secrecy in entertainment that they're so lovely to be able to make something, and it's just out there. Then you can just click post, and
it's
out.
immediately there.
Oh, it's so lovely.
I before I worked in TV, I worked in at DreamWorks on the feature film side for 4 years, and so I worked on How to Train Your Dragon 2, which came out like at a normal pace, like a couple years later, and then I worked on like 4 things that got canceled. They'll never see the light of day. I think one of them actually just came out of, like, it was put back into development, and now it's like, it's gonna come out, I think. Fingers crossed. I hope it happens, but it won't be the version that I worked on. So I think, like you said, like, because we have to sometimes just stuff just doesn't happen. It's nice to just make it and immediately give it to your audience.
Yeah, just kind of get that validation immediately, because so much of your life is not getting that, or getting this bummer news, or like happy news behind the scenes that then no one can know about, that you just can't share it. Like when I think about doing a graphic novel in a more traditional format, where you get like an advance and you go be alone now for like a year, that just doesn't appeal to me, because like that is like already like my day job, where no one sees anything I'm working on. Currently, no one has seen anything I've worked on for 3.5 years, I think.
Wow.
4 years. So yeah, it's
Same
yeah.
here.
So yeah.
Television, I know, is notoriously risk averse, and
Yeah.
I've heard so many horror stories about like projects getting developed to death.
This entertainment, movies they're the same way. Like all the studios, like the mommy bloggers have a big impact. Like the studios are terrified of the mommy bloggers. It's a thing.
I've seen them.
Yeah,
they sometimes come to
them
Disney.
It's
Your eyes just went to infinity. I've seen them.
I've seen them.
I turned a corner and they were all there. They were all taking selfies,
right? Yeah,
on
they're always taking
like this beautiful wallpaper that we have that one of the artists designed. yeah, they have so much of a say in what gets made. Sometimes a huge portion of projects are lost to focus testing, where it makes me feel like the audience is actually the enemy because they get to say yes or no to the project, just like so
And
yeah.
then standards and practices are different from studio to studio, and it's all self-imposed policing. Like at certain studios, like at I think like was it, I'm not sure if it's Nickelodeon specifically, but like certain studios you're not allowed to show broken or hear broken glass.
Right.
And then other ones you're not allowed to see flames. Like some, it's just
wow.
different, but it's all the studios policing themselves.
My favorite thing was at I think it's changed now, but at Nickelodeon for a while you couldn't say dead.
Oh, yeah.
That was my so we were all saying unalive. And I was like, this is so much better.
And then Jonathan Tendergreaves became unalive.
They really hated it when we kept changing stuff to unalive.
Yeah, you had to like find loopholes or ways to get stuff in there.
Like people would never know that. Like I never knew as a kid when they show something gross in a cartoon, it's always like a green color, but like you'd think it would be a brown color. But there's standards and practices.
Oh my
Like if you're gonna draw, whether it be shit or vomit, you don't draw it brown. You got to stick to greens and like neon, like yellows and stuff.
Yeah.
Nice mustard.
Yes. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Hello. With the this one's more for Aminder. With the graphic novel out now, are you still doing more Woman World or?
I took a break just because, like I mentioned earlier, I realized there came a point where I was making it for the audience and not for myself, and I don't feel like there's too many comics, or I don't feel like I need to make any more currently. I'd like to get away from it for enough time where I feel like doing it again. And in the process, I also want to disengage from social media to remember that followers mean nothing, and because you get to a point where you start to think they matter, and you really need to take a break when that starts happening. So it's been kind of like just lovely for me to watch the numbers go down. It's like the opposite of anxiety. I'm just getting happier as the days go by. I did do a like short form, just like a mini comic based with the same characters. There's different parts of the world, like within the larger world, I'd like to explore, and there's more arcing narrative stuff I'd like to do. I don't know if I have the time to plan it, so I like to enjoy just the fantasy of like where I've done it, and it's like really cool, and so I'll just never do it.
Last question over here.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Hey.
Thanks for coming out. So this is a little bit of an unfair question given how accomplished and busy you both are, but is there anything new sort of on the horizon that you'd like to try outside of comics, outside of animation? Either projects, I mean, obviously there are projects that are upcoming, but I know that comics has sort of given you guys an outlet that you potentially wouldn't have had otherwise, and was curious about sort of what drew you to the medium and maybe if there's anything next.
I've been approached more for writing for different comics now, which has been amazing because I've been writing in my career for a really long time, but in storyboard shows, people kind of remember you more for your images than for your writing. So it's really nice to finally get like offers based off of just the writing alone. So I'm starting to realize like, oh, that's like another path I could take. I could make a book without the pictures part. Like, well, that's insane.
And for me, something that I would love to do eventually is I would love to make something for stage. Actually, I would love to make a musical. So right now I'm working on something that involves music. I can't talk about it now, but upcoming Tuesday, I think maybe after that I can talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, election day.
I remember the first pitch I went to where you had like a song in an episode of Pinky Blinky, and then, you know, we sing sometimes in the storyboard room. That's like really common, but you know, we're normal people singing, so it's not that great. And then Megan starts, she like, you know, and then it's like the voice of an angel comes out, and like everyone did the thing where they looked around at each other like, what the what? And then there was also another episode where you did a perfect dolphin sound, and we also all did the thing where we're like, what the? And you like, there was no segue into it. You just like started doing it, and then you were like talking also in a dolphin voice. It was insane.
Right. I remember you were like, you
Yeah,
oh,
right.
a dolphin voice? Oh my God.
I'm sorry, I
okay.
put you on the spot.
Okay.
Yeah, let's be
You're a
sent off with Megan
a
doing
dolphin
dolphin.
voice. Okay. Yeah, I remember you were
And then
like,
she was
you could.
actually doing like words and stuff, and I just like everyone. We stopped like watching the episode because we're all doing just like the what is what? Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything about that, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. We were like talking about casting the dolphin, and we were like, our dream was like getting Bjork to do it. We couldn't get Bjork. Surprise, surprise. She's in Iceland. She's doing her
I'd rather play the shark.
Right. Yeah. She has her own island off the coast of Iceland, by the way.
course
Because
she does.
Because I think she bailed out. I believe she bailed out the Icelandic government, and she has an island. Like I went to Iceland like a couple summers ago, and someone was like, "That's Bjork's island." I was like, "No shit." But yeah, so we tried to
Did you
get.
see her there?
I
Just
hope.
her standing.
If I squinted, maybe I would have seen her. But yeah, I tried to get Bjork to do that. She didn't do it. So like I was the substitute for So
That's
like
cool.
Much better.
like
I
a
think.
no
So great.
sad substitute for Bjork. But yeah.
Bjork's my persona.
Oh my gosh, that's a really good choice.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take our last question. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if you guys have like any advice for like students who are graduating from college. Like we all three are like at SVA and we're graduating soon. And like if you have any advice for students like going out there and looking for jobs and like that type of stuff.
Congrats for
Yeah,
You
yeah.
made it.
SVA is a great school too, and like a lot of SVA alumni work with
so
us.
So many cool people.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, you did just say the job market's pretty good
It's
right
pretty
now
good
for
right now.
Yeah.
I don't know,
diversity
you
and
just
inclusion
gotta-
initiatives.
Yeah, you just kind of gotta show up and like
Yeah.
email the right person. There's jobs waiting.
If you can, if I know this is not everyone has the means to do this, but if you can get an internship or work towards an internship or even just come like live in California for a summer or something, and just so
Yeah.
you're around.
I mean, if
and
that's
interact
where
with
you
people.
want to be. In
You want to be
LA,
in California,
just-
yeah.
just
There's just
move.
more work out there.
I started with an internship. I went to Nickelodeon for an unpaid internship and stole a lot of toilet paper because I was like, "You're not paying me. I'm gonna take all the toilet paper." It was a great experience, although it wasn't artist. Stealing all the toilet paper was a great experience. Although it wasn't even art-based, it was like a production internship, and I was just surrounded by artists, and I had just finished my grad film, and I was just like, I don't know, take a look at this, and I can like draw, and I did everything myself. I didn't get any help, and then people were like, "Holy shit! Like you did this? Like you should be working here. What are you doing?" And later when I got hired, like right after the internship, I asked like, was it really the film that like did it? Because I don't think my grad film's that great. And my first director told me it was actually, he was like, the film's fine. it's don't be so hard on yourself. But he said it also showed that you can make things. You finish things. You put your mind to something and you finished it. And he was like, that made a massive difference. We knew you like could be given something and hand it back.
Actually, that getting into the habit of finishing things
Yeah.
is a big one. I think even when it comes to putting together your portfolios, I think having a sample that has a clear beginning, middle, and end. If you're going to story or whatnot, like if you want to be a storyboard artist, having something that has a beginning, middle, and end per sample is a huge one. So that means make doable goals for yourself. I think I really admire the fact that like for you would have a very practical approach to comics or to whatever it is that you are doing. Like before Woman World, you did 2 other comics, and with each one you were trying to learn a different skill set before you went and did Woman World. So
right, even when I was like a student, or right after doing my internship, I was doing comics that were in TV format. So I was making like they weren't interesting paneling, but it was storyboarding is ultimately what it was. But they were comics and they were all bite-sized, so they were also easy to put into a portfolio. And I personally find when I'm looking at portfolios, I need like a couple short stories, to just like
Yes, yeah.
you know, get a little taster before I go into like the big epic that the student really wanted to tell. So I unintentionally did that with my own portfolio. And now I
yeah,
recommend
because
it.
I would say the biggest mistake that I see in portfolios or in student work is you could see the ambition, but you could see where they ran out of steam or ran out of time, and then it just kind of peters out at a random spot, and there's no finished story because we're not going to be able to get a sense for like what kind of storyteller you are if you can put together a complete thought. So I think getting in the habit of working within limitations and finishing things is really good.
Yeah.
That's great advice, I think, for any writer, aspiring writer. Yeah. As an editor, I know I'm seeing manuscripts that, like it just needs to be done. Yeah. All right, guys. So that's it. I'll see you all at Panera Bread, where we're all going to get Chinese chicken salads. And before we do that, you're going to each get both copies of Sharky Malarkey and Woman World by Nicole Dong and Aminder Dhaliwal. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.